So I beat chaos. I destroyed chaos. Listen, Strangers of Paradise main story is 100% done, and I'm here to help you guys on launch day. That even though the game tells you a lot, I'm going to give you some tips for people who have never played a Neo-like or heck even Souls-like game to accomplish everything on hard mode, chaos mode too. I'm here to give you 9 tips Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin doesn't teach you. Once again, shout out to Square Enix for sponsoring this video once again. Thank you for the review copy of this game as well. If you want to see more Square Enix content, please hit the subscribe button and comment down below. Let's get right into it. First tip, how to put items in your inventory. Alright, the game does tell you this, but in case you weren't reading the demos or just playing through them, you will have 2 options. A, go to the cube in the mission, hit items and send to storage, or B, from the main menu, hit start items, then hit triangle or Y if you're using an Xbox controller to select them. I never had to really do this in any of the demo builds of the game because my inventory was never full, but in case you didn't know, now you do. Dismantling is important. This is something that can be really important if you want to keep a certain type of weapon with its rarity, ability, and bonuses. Throughout the game, you will gain access to stronger versions of weapons and armors, but sometimes they lose like embedded with fire or element or have lower critical hit rates compared to level 30 weapons you have found in the game. It's only important later when you beat the game for some enemies. However, you could just always use the higher level piece you find in later chapters of the game. Different types of abilities and how to deal with them. In Stranger in Paradise Final Fantasy Origin, there are 3 types of common enemy attacks: purple instant ability, yellow orange ability, and red abilities. Purple instant abilities can be caught with Soul Shield like stated in the tutorial, but what you have not noticed is that making sure you land these moves on bosses because it helps decrease their break gauge. Some bosses in the game will throw out a lot of purple attacks and they just want you to throw them back, and the goal is for them to overwhelm you during the course of the boss battle. Use purple abilities ASAP on the bosses or in tangent to when you can combo. Red abilities are kinda like command grabs. Have you ever played a fighting game where you can't block that grab move? Well, you need to dodge them 100%. I guess another small tip of dealing with these is completely dodging backwards or rolling outward if they are moving horizontal towards you, then sidestepping afterwards for safe coverage. You can also cancel enemy attacks with some link abilities. This one is something that will probably save your life in the later levels of the game. I learned later on that link abilities from what I tested with sword or weapon like classes, if you use before a monster's purple or orange attack, you can completely cancel out a move. Towards the end of the game, some moves like Warcry and some moves like Mighty Guard, which will let you go through a lot of the enemy's monsters attacks. You need to understand parrying. This is a hot take, but parrying in my honest opinion feels 10 times better than just blocking in this game. Parrying as a mage class is necessary to help build MP to use more magic. Note, some mage classes while charging can also charge the MP gauge if you didn't know. Blocking in this game is very weird to me because if you block for too long, you just go faster down with your break gauge and it's just not worth it when you could just parry and build up MP for other resources. Next big tip, this is probably my biggest tip for probably completing the game. Do not hold the Soul Shield button even if they're doing onslaught of attacks. Me holding down that button was getting me cooked. It's also a bad habit because later bosses will do different patterns and probably almost one-shot you in some scenarios. Holding Soul Shield can put you in a serious break situation. I find myself holding shield instead of activating Soul Shield was very needed. Holding it will also just make you super predictable. Sometimes bosses will use red abilities, attacks, and completely wash you. Next tip is taking it slow on boss fights. Listen, take your first run of a boss fight to figure out patterns. If you're doing this with a friend, you can talk it through. When we first started the game, we were so hyper fixated on beating a boss the first try that sometimes it might have taken up to an hour just to beat one boss. Taking your time is key to defeating bosses. Also, there is no rush on defeating bosses because you have unlimited retries because of where the checkpoints are placed before every boss battle. Try the missions out on your own. I guess it's another quick tip. Try some of the missions out on your own. Some people will argue that the game is either more fun or less fun with or without friends, but since you learn how to play the game on your own, you will be able to work with any situation. Also, no spoilers, but there are parts of the game you have to play solo. Oh, I highly encourage you to always play multiplayer at the same time though, because of the Anima Shards. Anima Shards gives you the ability, just for joining as a guest, to level up any class or any crystal that can be converted into XP. They explain it in the game, but literally you can literally just play whatever class you want to use from Anima Shards instead of just actually grinding out a class. Maybe you just don't want to use the mage class at this current point in time, but you want to level up and get the abilities later. You could do that via Anima Shards. Now also goes to my next tip, and I think this could be depending on how good you are at the game, but I highly suggest you always having a mage class or someone with white mage. I think white mage is probably the best mage in the game in my opinion. It has all types of abilities for debuffs, for defense, to revive players, etc. It is so cool that that is a system in this game. You also have Regenga. That person that can play that class will do you wonders when you don't know how to do a boss fight. Sometimes helping you get even a second to third chance, even without the use of Phoenix Downs, HP potions for revival. That being said, this is my tips and tricks video for Strangers of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin. If you want to see any more Strangers of Paradise content, comment down below, subscribe, follow me on Twitter at avataryayaTV_. And remember, you guys are golden and that is raw. Squalla, peace, and I'm out. Bam. Okay, we're done. Thank you.
I've been a devil, I need me an arc and no water. My breathing, I feel like time's right. Walking this bitch with a